Alright, so this one's gonna be a touch different than my past videos. So it's fall here, and last week we went apple picking. I went with my girlfriend and her family. It's a little tradition that we do every year. And I really wanted to create something different, sort of like a vlog slash recipe video for it, so that's what you're gonna see here today. So if you'd like to skip to the recipe portion of this video, I will provide that timestamp below. So first we're gonna peruse the orchards, pluck some fresh apples, then we'll finish up, wrap things up there, and head over to the Mars Cheese Castle. And yeah, there's an entire castle dedicated to cheese, so, you know, only in Wisconsin. Then finally we'll come back here to my kitchen where I will show you how to make a classic down-home American apple pie. Yo, Luda crisp apple. Luda! Pick the apple, babe. How is it? Yeah? Oh, look at that over there. Look at those up there.
They put up things between the trees now.
So many fallen warriors. Oh, that is my kind of apple. There's no work. Low-hanging fruit. Look, I mean, come on, this thing's a model. Look at that model boy. He is, I think it's a male. I think it's a male apple. What do you think?
Say it's a male apple.
No, I mean like most inanimate objects are female, but this one for some reason feels like a male.
And I want a bite.
Oh, she's pretty. The apple, I mean, of course. Look at that thick apple molasses. You got all the cider a boy could want and all the curds. Oh baby, we are in Wisconsin. Bag secured. Special.
A bushel and a pack. Yeah, you said it.
We have arrived at the Mecca, the one and only Mars Cheese Castle. A castle dedicated to cheese. I've missed you. Do they have it? Let me see this baby. This is God's nectar. People drive from far and wide to get these puppies. Alright, we're probably gonna need like 3 more of those. Nice. She's jarked. Yeah, 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 yeah. Another what?
Another pack.
Yeah. Makes it 3 sixers. Let's grab that boy. Only at the castle, baby. I think we should probably buy a meat football. It's like a summer sausage. Beef summer sausage football. Chatty. To all my chip makers out there, you guys can take some notes because these things are the best things I've ever had. I've never had the cheddar bacon flavor, but these chips are insane. Definitely gonna cop.
And then Adam's getting me.
What are the cheese board?
Cheddar bacon. Yeah, baby. What would you guys say? You got it like
Merch goals. It's a little abrasive, but I'll take it. Alright, my glasses are fogging. Let's go home and make some pie. Alright, so the crust takes the longest, so let's start there. We're going to make an all-purpose flaky pie crust called Pâte Brisée. It's a French word, I probably mispronounced it. When making pie dough, which is usually chocked full of butter, it's really important that all the ingredients and the equipment stay ice cold. So into a chilled stand mixer bowl goes 205 grams of cold unsalted butter, 250 grams of bread flour, and 3 grams of kosher salt. Click the bowl into the stand mixer and run the machine on low until the butter breaks up into the flour and starts to sort of look look like sand with small pebbles scattered in the mix. Once the flour and the butter mixture looks incorporated, it's time to drizzle in the ice water. Start by pouring in around a 1/4 cup or 55 grams of chilled water. You might need a bit more or less depending on how dry your environment is. If you need to add more water, do so by dripping in a tiny bit at a time. Make sure the dough looks super smooth in the mixer, then pop it out onto a lightly floured counter. You're going to want to quickly work it into a shape, kind of like an oversized hockey puck or like a Mondo burger, honestly. Then cover it with plastic wrap and let it chill in the fridge for at least 4 hours, preferably overnight if you can. Resting the dough is going to help it keep from cracking when you roll it out. Try not to overwork the pie dough with your hands or the butter could melt and mess with the dough. Make 2 batches of this stuff. We need a top and bottom crust for our pie. This is everything that we need for our filling. Here we have our freshly plucked apples, dark brown sugar, salt, tapioca starch, half a lemon, and our spice blend. So here we have some ground cinnamon, some ground ginger, some ground allspice. This, my good people, is their allspice berries. That's what whole allspice looks like before I ground it into that. But we need one more spice to go along with the cinnamon, ginger, and allspice. Nutmeg. This is whole nutmeg. It's actually not a nut, it's a seed. You can buy it pre-ground, but the freshly grated stuff is much more aromatic. Alright, another thing are the apples. Choosing apples for pie can be a controversial topic, but fear not. There's no need to get caught up on which apple types you need to use for the perfect pie. A good rule of thumb is to just do your best to use a mixture of tart and sweet apples. And if you don't know the properties of each apple, like me, just Google it, you'll be fine. If all you have are sweet or tart apples, just don't let it stop you from making pie. It'll still be delicious. So there's a ton of different ways to peel an apple. Just make sure to use a sharp peeler and do your best to get the job done. That's really all it takes. Now we need to cut the apples into 1/3 to 1/2 inch wedges. It's important to cut the apples into this size because we aren't going to cook them before we bake. Instead, we're going to macerate them, or in other words, soften them in their own liquid. If the apples are too thin, they'll turn to mush, and if they're too fatty, they won't cook well. Feel me? They should look a little something like this. This is the size that we want because it'll shrink down when it macerates, So you're going to want to weigh out 1,300 grams or 2.9 pounds of these sliced apples. Then it's really as simple as pouring over 200 grams of dark brown sugar, the spice blend from earlier, a pinch of salt, and lastly the juice of half a lemon. Give that all a mix by hand until the apples seem to be coated in the sugars. Cover the apples with plastic wrap and set them aside to macerate for at least 3 or up to 10 hours. And make sure to kind of jiggle the apples every hour or so. You just want to make sure everything's coated in the sugar. A solid timeline is to start the dough and the apples in the morning, then bake in the early afternoon. And my baking vessel of choice will be this here nifty 10-inch cast iron pan. As if apple pie couldn't get any more American. Why don't you set that there cast iron apple pie right next to my pet bald eagle and revolver, son? When it's ready, remove the rested dough from its plastic prison and roll it out on a floured countertop. And the dough can be quite hard right out the fridge, so don't tweak if it takes you some time to roll out. Roll the dough out until it's just able to reach past the rim of your baking vessel. I rolled this dough out to 1/3 of an inch thickness, or so. It probably looks like I'm manhandling the dough here, but if given time to rest, you should not have to worry about it cracking on you. This is just a little test to make sure that the pie crust can actually fit into the pan. Once rolled out, carefully work the dough into the floured cast iron. It might look flabby, but extra dough is a nice insurance policy. In this instance, it is wise to have a longer runway, just in case. Trust me. Now use a knife or kitchen scissors to trim away most of the excess dough, but let an inch or so hang over. You don't throw this away, you can actually kind of scrunch this back up and roll it out with all your other excess dough. Once shaped and trimmed, pop the entire cast iron and the crust in the fridge to chill for 30 minutes. I don't usually whip the ruler out, but today is a special day. We'll use this period to prepare the top crust of our pie. Here I've just rolled out and chilled this second pie dough. We're going to make a classic crisscross or lattice design to top our pie. By eye or with a ruler for guidance, using either a pizza cutter or a knife, cut out an even number of evenly sized strips from the dough, then set them back in the fridge to chill for 15 minutes. With both doughs chilling, let's finish the apple filling. Whoa. And you can see at the bottom, you have all this liquid which is a little bit of water, but it's also mostly sugar. And our dough is actually going to be able to stand up to it. You can see they're like kind of rubbery. But they still have a little bit of crunch, but they'll cook down. Mix in roughly a 1/4 cup or 30 grams of tapioca starch. Once baked, the starch will thicken up and help set the mixture. Okay, the time has come to build le pie. Pour the apples and all the syrup into the cast iron and spread the apples to make the top relatively even. Now it's time to weave the lattice crust. Evenly lay half your dough strips vertically over the entire pie. I'm using 20 strips total, 10 vertical, 10 horizontal. Starting from left or right, flip up every other strip to the halfway point on the pie, then set the first horizontal strip on top in the middle. Next, reset the flipped pieces back down over the horizontal strip to make your first full weave. Work your way down the pie, alternating the weave until you make it to the end, then flip the cast iron back around and do the same thing to the other side. If you're confused, really don't be. Once you get the first weave down, it's very intuitive, and honestly, if I can do it, so can you. Once the lattice is woven, trim the remaining excess crust by pressing the dough into the rim of the cast iron with your fingers. Getting the dough off the handles of the cast iron can be a little awkward, so use a knife to cleanly trim the dough off those parts if you need to. Have another little disc of pie dough here to do with what you want. Next, make a quick egg wash by whisking together 1 egg yolk and some whole milk or cream. Then brush the wash onto the top of the pie. This coating is what's going to give our pie an extra beautiful, very shiny appearance. Now for the last touch before the oven, a little sprinkle of finishing sugar and whatever textured crunchy salt you'd like. That little salty sweet contrast. Place the entire cast iron onto a lined baking sheet and pop it on the middle rack of a preheated 450 Fahrenheit oven. You're going to want to bake the pie at 450 Fahrenheit, then after 10 minutes reduce the heat to 375. Bake until the temperature of the middle of the pie reads 190 Fahrenheit. Should take anywhere from about an hour to an hour and a half or so.
That's looking thick though.
The hardest part of this entire process is probably waiting for the pie to cool. You know, cast iron is famous for its ability to hold heat, so this thing needs to cool for at least a couple hours. Do not cut into it early, or you could end up with apple soup, not pie. And a little whipped cream or vanilla ice cream goes a long way with this one. Don't forget that. So as of the recording of this video, I think this was my first or second dessert I've ever done on this channel. I gotta keep it real, I'm more of a savory cook, don't cook a lot of desserts, I don't really have much of a sweet tooth at all. But that being said, I know that there's a time and a place for specific desserts, so I'm not anti-dessert, there will be more. And if you're new here, we should be friends. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. And to all of y'all regulars and just everyone else, thank you so much for watching. I had a blast making this video, more to come, we're gonna keep doing our thing. We'll see you next week.